Hi, I'm Tim Masso, Director IW Magazine, and today it is my absolute pleasure to share with you the 10th of the Jaeger-LeCoultre Ibris Mechanica series, the 3rd of the Gyrotourbillon. This is the Jaeger-LeCoultre Master Grande Tradition Gyrotourbillon 3 180th Anniversary Jubilee Edition of 75 pieces. This watch is composed of platinum extra white and spans 42.5 millimeters across the broad of the case, not including the crown. Now, in terms of thickness, it's 15.5 millimeters, but it does have a nicely sloped case flank. This one is designed to be worn with a formal cuff, but really, a watch with this sense of occasion should never be worn under a sleeve. It is, however, wearable on the sleeves of many arms. With a 51mm lug-to-lug span, it's not an oversized bully of a watch, and it fits easily on my 16cm, 6 1/3 inch wrist. You'll also note that the watch is dramatically counterbalanced by a substantial double deployant white gold clasp that, in addition to having a nice counterweight mass to it, may be the most over-engineered clasp I've ever encountered. You do get a few tricks for your $500,000 US. Now, I open this one up, probably not nearly as gingerly as I should, and you can see the architecture of the double swing arms. Nothing revolutionary to this point, but you begin to realize why this clasp has 100 parts when you open up the cap featuring the interlocking JLs and the calibration marks within. Because this clasp, uniquely, features an incremental adjustment system, much like the one first seen on the Jaeger-LeCoultre Master Compressor Extreme Lab 2. Featuring an incremental adjustment, it's actually born, in this case, on a more sophisticated mechanism that features a rack and gears. The rack and gears shifting this back and forth to allow incremental adjustment on the fly, such that the watch can easily be sized not just to suit your wrist, but to suit your circumstances, hot, cold weather, activity, or inactivity. It's extraordinarily robust, beautifully made, feels spectacular in the hand, and it does exactly what's expected from a functional standpoint. Now, jumping back to the dial, you can see this one of 75-piece special edition, released for the 180th anniversary of the manufacture in 2013. It has a lot going on. Naturally, the star is the Gyrotourbillon. The very first of the Ibris Mechanica and the very first of the Gyrotourbillon series was the 2004 Gyrotourbillon 1. Now, that watch gave birth to the idea of the biaxial tourbillon, but it was taken further in 2008 with a cylindrical hairspring in the Gyrotourbillon 2 Reverso. This watch, however, takes it to another level still, a plane on which no others are currently practicing, with a three-dimensional, spherical, blued, concentrically beating, centered center of gravity hairspring. If you can't see it to good effect here, just imagine an AT&T telecom logo. It's exactly that, a spiral blue sphere. And it's important to note that its advantages, with the center of gravity optimized with concentric beating in any position, compound the advantages of the tourbillon cage itself. There are two axes to the tourbillon, one on which the tourbillon advances at a rate of 1 circuit per 24 seconds, and another featuring a 60-second circuit. The idea is to restore the original anti-gravity neutralizing effect of the tourbillon as envisioned by Abraham Louis Breguet originally in 1795 by rotating pocket watches in a vest pocket top to bottom on one axis. He was able to counter the effects of gravity, but wristwatches exist in a more dynamic environment, and thus it's necessary to tumble the escapement and the balance through more orientations relative to gravity to cancel out its effects, and that is achieved here. You'll note at 9 o'clock a secondary function, a digital jumping minutes mono-pusher chronograph scale. Now, it has a gorgeous silvered and sunray base with tens and single-digit minutes jumping instantaneously at the index at 60 or when reset by the mono-pusher system. Now, you'll note not only an instantaneous change when you cross the threshold of a minute and reset, but immensely refined. You can see the black polished cap of the column wheel just above the chronograph scale, and you can see the jumping system visible just beneath. It also features a refined vertical clutch mechanism such that if you do want to have seconds to complement the Dauphine hand hours and minutes on the primary dial, you can simply leave the chronograph running, ignore the minutes, and watch the seconds hand. With a vertical clutch, there is no additional wear and tear as there would have been with a lateral clutch mechanism. And you'll also note that while Jaeger-LeCoultre has taken the concept of its Gyrotourbillon beyond the moon and the stars since 2004, this watch does give you both, with an AM/PM indicator, hand-engraved, featuring a lacquered section for the PM hours. Beautiful blue lacquer. It looks rich, lustrous, and wet, and it's surrounded by a sea of tremblage finish atop the movement. Now, the movement has plates and bridges that are actually in a material called miquart, or more commonly German silver. Now, it's not German silver, it's not German or silver in this case, it's actually an alloy of copper, nickel, and zinc. This is more often seen on vintage pocket watches, so Jaeger-LeCoultre, in tribute to its 19th century founding father, created something like a pocket watch aesthetic with that gorgeous copper-based alloy, the copper lending it a rich hue, a golden hue that becomes more intense with time. And it's matched by that hand-engraved chiseled tremblage across all bridges. You'll also note that there's a sort of pathway between the mirrored edges featuring anglage, or rounded polish at the edge of the bridge, and the tremblage centers. Now, JLC did not shy away from interior angles here. As you can see, interior angles immaculately finished, considered to be the hardest of the many finishing crafts and finishing feats in high horology. Interior angles well represented on both sides of this movement. Now, the caliber 176 does have 88 pivot jewels, 592 parts, exquisitely finished, technically and aesthetically. You can also see that the two intertwine at the very base of the escapement, beating away at 21,600 vibrations per hour. You can see that the actual cap on the base of the tourbillon cage is black polished for exceptional radiance when you hit it at just the right angle, and all of the screws are beautifully heat oxidized, a cobalt blue. Naturally, though, Jaeger-LeCoultre is nothing if not practical. While the watch may be spectacular, it features very practical measures such as a shock protection system on the tourbillon cage. It features 5-bar water resistance. That's 5 ATM or 50 meters. This is a watch that is designed to be worn. It's not designed to live out its life in a safe or a watch box. This is one that's designed for everyday use, which I think we can all agree is the purpose of a watch, because if you can't enjoy it, why is it? And that fundamental existential question is answered in exquisite fashion by the Jaeger-LeCoultre Gyrotourbillon 3.